when who you love was often portrayed as a failing of masculinity, of an inherent flaw that meant you were not a real man, is it any wonder that queer boys adopted kick-ass, powerful, feminine role models as their idols? Hi all, my name is Ryan and welcome to my channel What the Pop, where we discuss pop culture in general, Buffy a lot and quite a few things queer. Today we are looking at why queer boys often adopt strong female role models like Buffy, Chun-Li, Nina, Storm, Scarlet Witch and countless others. What is it about strong kick-ass women that draws gay men to them? Someone once said to me in the comments on this very channel, it's because gay men want to be women. And I can say without any shadow of a doubt that I have never wanted to be a woman. I enjoy being a man way too much. There is so much advantage that comes with a white male body, both physical and social. But it's this kind of ingrained thought that gay men must just want to be women that deemed us as lesser, as weaker, and as failures in being real men. And since we were such failures as men, why would we look to standard male heroes as our idols, when they represent a heteromasculine ideal of which we were not included? I look back at all the media I consumed as a child and during my teenage years, all the cartoons I loved, all the comics I adored, and the games I spent hours playing. And when I look at the characters I loved, almost everyone I loved had a strong female character that held her own with her male counterparts. And like many gay kids do, I gravitated to them. They became my idols. My first love, my first female idol that I can remember was Princess from Battle of the Planets, a westernized version of the Japanese anime Gatchaman. In all her pink and white splendor, she was elegant, beautiful, and kicked ass. She fought with an exploding yo-yo, tore around on a motorcycle, and looked great doing it. She was cool and held her own, fighting alongside Mark and Jason without ever losing her femininity. A pink beacon that appealed to something deep within me. Looking back, Battle of the Planets was actually an interesting show because once all the characters changed into their costumes, the three main protagonists all became slightly feminized. Jason and Mark sporting thigh-high boots, skin-tight costumes, their poses, their movements, their lithe builds were all far more feminine than their contemporaries like He-Man, who looked more like a bodybuilder, which I was probably watching around the same time. But it was Princess who held most of my attention. Seeing a pink pastel kick-ass woman defending Earth against the denizens of evil appeared to me in ways I would not understand until years later. This same adoration would be reflected in my love of the Pink Ranger, Kimberly Hart, a staple of idolization for every gay kid in the 90s. It's interesting though to see how much my other likes and interests influenced who I was drawn to. As a kid, and still as an adult, I was obsessed with ninjas. They fueled my love of martial arts. So in something like the fighting game Soul Calibur, when most gay men picked the scantily clad whip sword wielding Ivy, I would choose the female ninja Taki. And I think it would be really interesting to see how those external factors, those other loves, determined which female characters other gay men were drawn to. Put in the comments below which kick-ass female was your idol and why that one particularly. I'm willing to bet most of them will be Xena and Buffy, but I'd love to read the reasons behind others. In live action in the 80s, we had Sigourney Weaver's Lieutenant Ripley from Aliens and Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. Both were kick-ass women, and while I liked them a lot, they never appealed to me the way the cartoon characters had, because they lacked that hand-to-hand combat element. I found that in Cynthia Rothrock, a female action star and martial artist from the 80s who I adored. Seeing her kicking her way through hordes of men made me so happy. She was the inspiration behind another of my favourite female kick-ass characters, Sonya Blade from Mortal Kombat. The hand-to-hand combat factor was important to me, not only seeing women who could do what men could do, but seeing women besting men in hand-to-hand combat I realised was a large part of the appeal of the Femme Fatale and the female heroes that followed in their wake. These were women completely unafraid of the more physically imposing men they encountered, and despite their smaller size and apparent weakness, still came out on top. In the Femme Fatale, you had something constructed to appeal to the male gaze. that was based in hetero-male fantasy, a fetishized version of female empowerment that was never meant to be a feminist ideal. Often portrayed as a beguiling temptress, a succubus that would lead the male hero to his doom if he should fall for her wiles. She was always that classic depiction of Eve leading Adam astray, that her feminine seduction is what would lead him to ruin. And that is where the appeal in these women lies to queer men. The things that are often perceived as weakness, their weaker bodies, their femininity, their emotions, the things that often made them victims, and the things that queer boys are often derided for, were turned into weapons. Ball-breaking, face-busting weapons of destruction. Weapons that were turned against a patriarchy that derided them, that sought to control them, and limit who and what they could be. Catwoman, played by Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns, is probably one of the ultimate depictions of this ideal. Selina Kyle is every woman and gay man who has been abused by the patriarchy, who is taken for granted and seemingly killed for her weakness. She emerges as Catwoman and is a literal sex kitten, a seductress in skin-tight PVC, an agent of chaos that exudes femininity and danger in equal measure. She flips, kicks, scratches and punches her way through the movie in a badass display of feminine power. She took what was perceived as her weakness, her womanhood, and weaponized it. She is no longer the victim, and has taken agency over her life and what happens to her. Control and agency are a big factor in why queer men embrace kick-ass women. When you have to hide who you are and who you love, when you have to suppress your desires in order to stay safe, you have a tendency to embrace characters who are able to do all of the things you can't despite being stuck in similar patriarchal systems. These warrior women were not powerful because of the patriarchy, they were powerful despite the patriarchy. There are memes everywhere about gay guys picking female characters in video games. We've all done it. My favourite character out of almost every fighting game I've ever played will always be a girl. In Street Fighter 2 it was originally Chun-Li, and the sheer joy I had in kicking the crap out of all the guys in my local arcade with her reignited my love and appreciation for martial arts. It was Cammy White, however, who became my #1 love in Street Fighter and is my favourite video game character. A female clone of the main villain, she was initially an assassin who broke her control and dedicated herself to fighting against his evil. She's beautiful, tiny, and to look at, you'd never think her much of a threat. Sure, she's well muscled, as you'd expect from a military soldier, but she's petite with long blonde braids. Despite her muscularity, she is girly, but she is an absolute weapon known as Killer Bee. I was immediately attracted to her character design and was drawn in by the fast, close combat way that she fights. She's one of the smallest characters in the game, but is designed as a rushdown character, meaning your goal is to get in your opponent's face and overwhelm them with speed and number of strikes. She is known as a glass cannon, a term used in fighting games for characters that can dish out heaps of damage, but will take lots of damage if you mess up. So she's fragile but deadly, something I identified with immediately, as back then I had internalized the idea that a gay man must be fragile, so I thought of myself that way. But it was her story that kept me coming back to her, a clone with no agency or control of her own, that was trained as an elite assassin. She eventually broke that control, gained agency over her life, and found her place with her chosen family, the British Delta Red military unit she was a part of. It is stories like that, of kick-ass women fighting against male-dominated systems and winning, that drew gay boys to them. They act as avatars for us to accomplish that which we cannot, and these kick-ass women with power and skill, are present everywhere in video games, especially fighting games. This habit of choosing women as my main characters would follow for every fighting game I played. For Mortal Kombat, it was Sonya Rikentata. For Tekken, it was Nina. For Dead or Alive, it was Kasumi. For Fatal Fury and King of Fighters, it was Mai Shiranui. All of them females who easily held their own against their male counterparts. Strong, beautiful, destructive forces of nature. It was in Buffy Summers, however, that I would find my queen, the woman that I idolise above all others. Buffy is the ultimate expression of everything that gay men love about their femme fatales. She is a complex character negotiating a male patriarchy with a power only women can wield. Like my love of Cammy, this is packaged in a tiny blonde girly girl who more often than not would be a victim in media, not a hero. Her power and strength and skill to save the world repeatedly emanate from this package of classic femininity that, in the earlier seasons at least, the people around her at school who she keeps safe don't know about. The demons know who she is, however, and they fear her. They know not to underestimate her. They know that there is far more to her than her bubbly blonde exterior suggests. To look at Buffy, she appears harmless, a gender stereotype that women are lesser than their male counterparts. In a season 7 moment, we get this exchange.
You should get home.
How'd you do that?
It's what I do.
You're just a girl.
That's what I keep saying.
She may be just a girl, but inside her resides a strength that isn't just from the demon that infuses her. It is her character, her distinctly female character that makes her who she is, that guides her decisions. Buffy is not just a female version of a male action hero. She very much retains her womanhood while she kicks ass. One of the main reasons Buffy is such a force of nature is because of who she is, the sacrifices she makes, and the decisions she makes. Buffy learns, she grows, and she becomes more powerful. But it is in her contrast to a male superhero that you see why gay men are so drawn to her. There is still struggle within her. She is still striving to be the person she truly wants to be, i.e. a normal girl, whilst also being this other person, a chosen one, whose destiny was thrust upon her and has limited her choices and agency over her own life. While she embraces her destiny and the power that comes with it, she rails against the boundaries and limits this places upon her. She is stuck within a system and has no real way of escaping that system other than death, so she must change it. That repressive feeling of being unable to be who you want to be, of having to play a role you don't want to play, is one all gay men can identify with, and Buffy rises above it, time and time again. I will actually do a deep dive into why Buffy is the ultimate femme fatale character in another video, but that's not the point of this one. These women, these femme fatales, provided an escape for many queer boys, a belief that we too may embrace some hidden inner power that enables us to stand against the people who refused us our rights, who called us abominations, who attacked us in the streets. They were a promise that the world could be better, that there were people willing to fight to change the perceived injustices of this world. They were a beacon of hope to those of us too afraid to speak out and stand in our truth. But for people like me, they were an example, an ideal to attain. At the end of season 7, in the episode Chosen, Buffy, talking to the potentials about the power that she and Faith wields, says, "So here's the part where you make a choice. What if you could have that power?" When I looked at Buffy or Cammy or Psylocke from the X-Men, I never wanted to be them. I wanted what they had. I wanted what they represented. I wanted that feeling of power, of no longer feeling like a victim, of no longer being afraid to be who I am. Seeing them in their feminine glory embrace their power allowed me to find mine. It was those women I idolized who inspired me to walk into a dojo and train. If they could have that power, then I could too. In so doing, I gave myself that power. I gave myself the confidence to be me, to unashamedly be myself. What many gay men look to in their female idols, I embraced, trained for, and became. Most queer boys won't become ninjas the way I did, but in their idols they find the power to be themselves, to exist as themselves in a world that has largely rejected who they are, who has told them they are weak, who has told them they aren't real men. These women, who literally kick down doors, have given them permission to exist, have told them that who they are is perfectly fine, and it doesn't need changing to fit some patriarchal notion of manhood. Thanks for watching. If you like what I do, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Or consider supporting the channel through our Patreon. If you think I missed anything or have any comments, put them in the comments below, and I'll see you next video.